So what I want to talk about next is these earrings that I'm making really didn't have any negative spaces on them, so I didn't have to drill a hole into them. And so I do want to show you guys how you can drill holes, and the way that we do that, we have a drill press at school, but we also have flex shafts at every bench. And flex shafts mean that there's this flexible shaft and it has a 3-jaw chuck here, and it allows you to put any size drill bit into it to drill holes. When you're drilling sheet metal that's thin like this, you want to start with smaller holes so that they stay round. At each bench, you guys are going to have a flex shaft. Each one is going to have a key, and this key fits into this hole here, and it opens and closes down to very, very small drills. I'm going to use a very small drill. This is like a 58. Going to put it in where it's the drill bit. I should actually talk about this a little bit. The drill bits have a smooth shank, and then they have this fluted shank. And the fluted area is to help remove the material that it's cutting. The most important thing about a drill is the end. And the end should have a little top on it that looks like a house roof. If it doesn't, it's probably been broken and it will not drill for you. If it's also chocolate brown on the end, it means somebody got this too hot and it's lost its temper, which means that it's not going to cut very well. So that's one of the important things to look at. I think I should show you a bigger drill bit just so that we can get that idea. So here's the drill bit, here's the shank, there's these lovely flutes, and then on the end here you can see where it's got the taper coming down. And so these are cut and ground so that they cut metal. If you're working with plastic, you would want to use a drill bit with a different angle on it so that you don't break the plastic. These are just high-speed steel drill bits. We don't need diamond drill bits. We don't need cobalt, because we're not working with that heart of metal that's on here. So these are some of the drill bits. These are 1/8 inch up to 1/4 inch. You can see the little ones get broken easier. That's why these are missing. So I really like to encourage people to learn how to drill with small drill bits without breaking them. And the way that you do that is, first off, you put it in your flex shaft so that it's centered, and you put it in just where the shaft is smooth, and then you tighten it down. And then the way I can tell whether I got this in right is I'm going to step on the foot pedal, and when it rotates, this stays true. So I've got that in there and it's running straight. And I like to talk about the drills and the flex shaft because a lot of people feel intimidated by them. If you've ever done any sewing, the foot pedal is identical to a sewing machine, and it's down on the bottom there for us. And the flex shaft should be able to work quite easily right at your bench. So what I need to do is not drill into my bench pin or the steel part. So at every bench, there should be a drill board with lots of holes in it so that we're not damaging our bench pin. And so you can see that I've cut the outside of this circle out. It's almost round. And now I need to drill holes so that I can cut the interiors out. And if I take this drill bit and I just start to drill, I'm actually going to do that for you. I need to put on my safety glasses, so everybody will have their own pair of safety glasses. My glasses are safety glass, but they don't have sides on them, so you definitely need to get safety glasses that have a side to them. Put them over my glasses, and if I go to drill this, first of all, I don't want to be drilling on this, but when I go to drill this, you're going to see it slide around on me. I can't see with this. Sorry, I didn't mean to. So what we want to do is we want to use what's called a nail set, and you'll have one of these at each one of your bench. And what you want to do, that's not a nail set, that is actually an engraving tool. You're going to take one of these And you're gonna not put it on the line. Oops. Okay, can we edit that? No, I'm just kidding. I'm not gonna put it on the line because half of it's gonna go into my design. So I wanna put it inside the line. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take what's called a chasing tool. This is a tool that we use to hammer on steel for chasing and repousse, and also for these center punches. So I like to hold the tool with my 3 fingers, and then my baby finger is my tripod. So I'm gonna line that up there, and I'm just gonna do a nice little hit, and I've got a little center punch that's gonna direct my drill bit into the right spot for me. So one of the things that you'll want to be thinking about is when you go to cut something out, if I have something that's really lacy and I'm going to remove most of the material, I may cut the inside out before I cut the exterior to keep it structurally strong. So when you get your design and you come in, ask Erin and myself what procedure should go first. But with this, I'm working with a pretty heavy gauge metal. And I also, I've still got some structure here. So I think that this is the time now for me to be able to drill the interior out. I'm gonna move it over to here. I'm gonna put my glasses back on and try not to breathe while I'm drilling. And I've got my arm propped up on my bench pin, so it's almost like a
piece of wax.
Oh yeah. I'm gonna put a little bit of wax on this, and then I've got my arm here, so it's almost like a drill press, and I'm gonna try to start it running and then make contact and then push down. Okay. If I drill at an angle, it's gonna heat up the drill bit and not go through. So it's really important to not only look that I'm straight this way, but I'm also straight from that way. The other thing is if you push down really hard and start, you're gonna break a small drill bit. So get it running and then make contact. And notice that I'm drilling pretty slow. Start it running. Okay. I'm not running really fast because doing that, it's not going to cut any faster. It's going to heat up the drill bit and make the drill bit dull. So you want to get into the habit of running at a much slower RPM. So start it running before you make contact, and a nice smooth running through. If it's more challenging than what you just saw here, it might be that the drill bit's dull, and that happens a lot in the studio. So come ask us. And if your metal starts getting hot, that's a sign that the drill bit is really dull. So now I've got these holes, and I'm ready to start drilling, or I'm ready to start sawing the inside out now that I've drilled. Another thing I like to do is I like to take my little drill bit out of my flex shaft so that it doesn't get broken. If I just let this go and it comes down, it might hit the bench and break.
Or go into your leg.
Or into your leg, yeah. So I'm going to take that out. I'm going to set this aside. Just a couple of things. I'll be going over the flex shaft a lot more when we talk about cleaning up and using accessories. But these flex shafts are hung so that these don't get kinked. And you can see that it's a little kinked here. And that's going to be problematic down the line. So you never want to bend these up tight. You want to leave them hanging just straight and down at your bench. And if you're going to get yourself a flex shaft, please talk to me about how to get you set up so that it can have a long life there. Okay, so for sawing, I'm going to take my saw frame, and it's the same blade that I used on the silver pieces, even though this is thicker. I'm going to undo the bottom because that's how I do it. You could undo the top. And I'm going to lean this against the bench, and I'm going to feed the blade through, and I'm going to push it all the way up to the top. If I hang it here, I'm going to have a loose blade. So push it all the way up to the top, line it up, push with my chest, which is sometimes hard to do when you've got a wheelchair, and then I let go, and I should still have that good tension. It's there. I definitely need to put some wax on the back side of my blade. And now I want to sit down. Remember to sit down not like you're eating dinner. move over. Make sure that the arm that is doing the sawing is in a straight location. And then I saw better from right to left. Don't know why. And I also see better without my glasses these days. So I'm going to start here. The bench pin is supporting this, and I'm going to come in and I'm going to start sawing. And one of the things I find happen is people hold their breath and they get nervous, or they push down so hard that their hands start to cramp up. You just really need to hold it down. The blade is designed to cut downward, so it shouldn't be lifting up too much for you. And then I'm not sawing leaning any of the ways. I'm trying to saw straight up and down. And I'm going to come in and I'm going to saw just inside my line, because I can always file it. But if it's gone, I'm going to be sad and maybe even start over. But I also see people doing this, and that just takes a lot of energy. And doesn't really get you anywhere. So what I recommend is using the whole length of your blade. And in my studio, I have my bench pin pretty high because I didn't want to be an old hunched over jeweler. But I like my nose pretty close to where I am. So I'm right to the corner there. If I want this a nice sharp edge, what I'm going to do is back up a little bit and make my radius turn. That I can then clean up with a file. And I just wobbled a little bit, but I'll clean up with a file, which will be our next video for you. As I'm sawing along, usually without a mask, I can wipe or blow the particles away. This is not as steep of an angle. People break blades because they push the saw blade, and they also turn the saw frame without going up and down. So if I get to this point and I just turn, I'm going to snap the blade. So what I want to do is keep sawing as I go around that curve. And in the beginning, learning how to saw can be really frustrating. I'm at a point now where I actually sometimes come home from school and go into my studio and just do some sawing. So now that drops out, and that's how I end up with a negative space. But I want to fix this corner because I had a hole not right on the edge. So I'm going to come in with my saw frame. I'm going to saw to there, and then I'm going to turn it around, and I'm going to come in this way. I gotta be really light when I get there so that I don't cut into the design. And then I can come back this way and I can saw and straighten that up a little bit. Okay. So that's how you saw a negative space. It's not bad, but now just because you're right here, I want to show you. I'm going to take my half round file and I'm going to file with my, oops, that's not my flat round file. There it is. I'm going to take my file, and I'll also have a handout for you guys on files. Files cut only in the push action. So if you're walking around filing your fingernails like this, it's not doing anything. It's a push action. Can you go back and forth? Yes. Can you go up and back and forth? You can do that too. What I'm going to do is hold this on my bench pin, and I'm going to come in with my flat side of my file, and I'm going to file till I got a nice smooth edge on my flat spot. And then I'm going to do this side. And this is where you find really well crafted work, is when people take the time for the attention of making things the way they're supposed to be. I almost said perfect, but perfect isn't always the answer. But now I've got pretty straight lines there. And then to do the half round part, I'm going to switch over to the half round of the file. And you probably can't see that the way I'm holding it. But if I just do this, I'm going to get a washboard. So I'm going to turn it at a 45 and I'm going to swoop back and forth. And that should give me a nice groove. I've got a little bump here, so I'm going to actually target that bump and file that down a little bit, just straight on. And then once I've done that, I'm going to come back in and go back to my rotating of my wrist. And now I've gotten rid of that bump, and I can come along and I can turn it over, and I can do the same thing from the other way. For me, this works best filing. I've had students that have had problems with their hands and holding on to things really well. So another way that you can file is you can set it up like this. And see, I've got that bump there. I can come in and I can file just straight down and get that out. And then come this way and solve that little irregularity there. And that doesn't make your left hand or your non-dominant hand work as hard. And then there's some burrs that are here. A lot of times will come back in and file a beveled edge, because then it's not going to be sharp. And dangerous jewelry doesn't sound as interesting to me as it might. But I'm just coming back in and doing a little bit of filing, which the polishing and sanding will do too. But there's my shape so far. And it's interesting because the outside now looks like it's got a bump right there. So I'm going to go over and I'm going to grab a round circle thing. And none of them are big enough. Doggone it, let me grab another. Sorry. I love using these guys to solve my problem when I'm looking at a circle. Because I can set this right on here. And I can use that lovely scribe. And I can trace around my template, and that's going to allow me to know where I don't want to take it all down, but can you see that there's a lot less here than here? So it means I need to take and find the closest to the line and then file. And I'm going to probably use a little bit bigger file. I come over here and I'm going to file down with one of these 6-inch files. You can hear that it's cutting a lot faster. And I'm just going to rotate and turn this. A faster way to do this is with a disc cutter, but I didn't have one that was this size. And I think it's good for people to practice sawing and getting good at sawing. So today in this world we have laser cutters and 3D printers and all of that. But really, until you have a design that you know is worth mass marketing, working with these basic tools and getting your prototypes built is really affordable for someone that doesn't have a lot of money to go to industry and have everything made. And so I really do value handwork. But at that time, I'm looking at it and starting to feel like it looks pretty round. Okay. So we're at the point now where I'm going to saw out the rest. When I meet back up with you guys with the video, I'll talk about some finish work on it, doing some sanding, and then I may bring this up to a polish. I think when everything's said and done, I'm going to want to solder this onto a back plate so that it isn't just open. I can also say that by the time I get to having it all cut open, I might decide that I don't want to do that. But that's my intent at this point, is to solder it onto a back plate to show you guys how to sweat solder. And then from there, it's just going to go on to my combination of pin backs that I've done. And I happen to be missing my vote one, so I got to find what I did with that. All right.